This episode is brought to you by Mint Mobile. Prices are going up everywhere on everything, and we need someone who has our backs and can make it stop, even for a moment. And thankfully, Mint Mobile is giving you a much-needed break on your wireless bill. Mint Mobile lets you order from home and save a ton with phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Order today at mintmobile.com/TFS. And thank you, Mint Mobile, for your support. Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are going to be talking about Season 1 of Ahsoka.
Live action Ahsoka. She's here. She's Rosario Dawson. She's on Disney+. We're talking about the whole season.
The whole season. She's here. She's doing it. And I am making a very conscious and decided effort to pronounce it correctly.
Oh, is there a debate on Ahsoka?
Ahsoka. There is no debate.
Okay.
There is me generally screwing it up.
How do you try to say it sometimes?
Ashoka.
Oh, you want all those H's in there. Oh, there's only one H.
There's only one H.
Right?
You're
adding an A.
I'm adding an H.
Do they say it that way, maybe?
No, I don't know where or how. This is one of those things that I think I read the name before I heard it.
Ooh.
And my brain just kind of added an extra syllable, and I've never been able to course correct. And I have to make a very conscious effort to be like, Ahsoka.
Okay.
Ahsoka.
This is all tracking.
So I'm going to say right now, if a couple of Ashokas slip in throughout the episode, I apologize. Don't come at me. I am doing my best.
I really love this opening as someone who hadn't questioned how to pronounce Ahsoka, and now I'm going to double guess myself every time.
Now you're
this
overthinking
is really
it.
fun for me.
Now you're overthinking it.
I'm, everyone knows how chill I am and cool about this stuff, so I will be laid back and having fun every time I say Rosario Dawson's character's name.
Which is?
Rosario Dawson's the character.
Hit me one time with it.
Ahsoka.
There we go. That's it.
I'm just gonna say the letters that are there.
You got it right.
Say letters
you don't need to change a goddamn thing, Diana.
Thank
You're doing
you.
great.
Well, putting effort in is more impressive than just doing it naturally.
We're all doing great.
We're all doing great.
We are all doing our best. We're talking about Season 1 of Ahsoka today on the podcast. We're going to be talking about the entirety of Season 1. So this just wrapped up. As we do anytime that we talk about a new TV show or movie, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. So we're going to talk about our general opinions of it in a spoiler-free way. Then once you hear the theme song, that is going to be when we enter the spoiler-filled section. So after the theme song, warning for spoilers. But let's start with a spoiler-free review. Let's start with the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
I did not like it, and it's very sad. It's a weird show because I think it's very boring. I think it's very poorly paced. There's some stuff to like that I'll get into a minute, but it is wildly made for people who watched the two animated series, Clone Wars and Rebels, and it really doesn't help you out if you didn't. It does not care if you didn't watch these shows. The characters aren't introduced, the relationships aren't rebuilt. It is absolutely a next season of Star Wars Rebels. And as having only watched one season of Rebels, I was like, I know who these people are, but this show is doing nothing for me. So I think that it's not built to be watched as a standalone thing, as Star Wars. And also, even on top of that, even if it was, it's wildly slowly paced. The VFX is fine. Some positives are, I think the practical effects are incredible. I love how this show looks when things are actually there. I think it is so, so good. And there are a couple of great performances, and then there is one terrible one that's bringing everything down, who has a major, major role. And then I think my other biggest negative would be it's not really a show about Ahsoka for the most part. So I feel kind of bad for Rosario Dawson, who does not get a character arc or all that much to do or anything complex or interesting to explore. So there's some great performances in here and some stuff looks really good, but overall it was just, I was bored for almost the entire time, except for a couple of fun parts I'll bring up later. So yeah, I was mostly bored and who are some of these people, even though I watched Rebels. So that's me. Andrew, how did you feel about Ahsoka?
I was fine about it. I didn't dislike it as much as you, but I agree its pacing is kind of poorly paced out. It's slow. It is not a show really about the title character. I agree that this is one more season of Star Wars Rebels, or this is the live action season of Star Wars Rebels. Like, if this was just called Rebels, like,
I'd be much more forgiving.
it would be, it would still have a lot of the same problems, but it would be more honest. This show really is having an identity crisis. To be like, it feels like a marketing team told them that Ahsoka was a character that was sellable as Rosario Dawson, and then a different marketing team checked like what the census and what the data was for people who love Rebels, who are diehard fans. And to the point where I'm like, if you're a diehard Rebels fan, we've watched some of it. We are not going to be closely comparing details here. And I am sorry for anything negative that I say about your favorite characters, because like the fans of the animated series in like Star Wars, the animated series is like Clone Wars and Rebels are some of the most diehard, scariest goddamn fans in the world of Star Wars. Like, I do have moments where I'm like, I don't think some episodes of Rebels don't work. Rebels fans are it is an intense fandom. So I'm sorry for any criticism that strays that might come your way here. But yeah, it's just mid. There are some good moments. I think Rosario Dawson's good casting. I think there's some good casting, some good performances, some visuals that really work, but they don't know what they want this show to be. Is it Ahsoka? Is it Rebels? Is it Andor? Like, it's trying to be everything, and in that effort, it's failing at all of it. It's trying to be too much to too many people.
Yeah, it does not have like one unified, like, what is this show about? Now, I will say the question we ask is, did you like it? So I will say, yes, I did not like it. But I also am like very aware that I think if you watch the animated shows, you might love this. So I'm not necessarily like it's even bad, but definitely I didn't like it.
Yeah.
It wasn't enjoyable for me to watch Ahsoka.
Yes. I agree with that. I think you still need to be a certain type of fan of Rebels, because Rebels, we've watched some of it. Rebels is better than Ahsoka.
Rebels is better than
Rebels
Ahsoka's.
is top to bottom better.
To get a vibe, I watched just the finale, and I think I cried like 3 times. It's a 47-minute story. I've only seen a little bit of Rebels, and I was like, I get all the character relationships. I had some tears fall. This was a great, like, easily digestible story fighting the Empire. Rebels was great.
Yeah. But I think you have to be the type of fan of Rebels who it's like, you have up until now been wildly frustrated that your favorite characters have not been getting mentioned in other things, and you just want them to reference the thing you already like, because this is not as good as Rebels.
No, it's not as good as Rebels. I think I agree. Even if you liked the cartoons, not as good as the cartoons.
Yeah, you've got to be thirsty for references.
Yeah. All right. So we're a dislike to a medium, to a fine.
And can it be spoiled?
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah.
Yeah, I assume so.
Yeah.
There's definitely like cliffhangery stuff from Rebels that is resolved here.
I think it can only be spoiled
if you watch Rebels.
If you watch the entirety of Rebels.
Totally fair.
Which is a weird bad sign for a show, to be like, it can only be spoiled if you watched 5 seasons of other television.
If you came in blind, cannot be spoiled.
This cannot. It's meaningless. It's dribble.
Yeah.
But if you watched Rebels, I think that some of this show can be spoiled.
Absolutely, it can, for sure. Okay, that's weird, but yes, I agree.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's
I concur.
very weird.
Law. Gavel.
Gavelled. Law. All right, so I think that's where we're at. I think it's mid to fine. I'm maybe a soft dislike. You're a dislike.
I'm a dislike.
And it can only be spoiled if you've watched all of Rebels.
That's the bullet points of did we like it?
There we go. Well, that's the spoiler-free section. Now let's get into the spoiler-filled section. Let's talk more about Ahsoka. All right. right. We have seen all of Ahsoka, and we've been just kind of meh about it.
We've been kind of meh about it. I'd like to start off with a positive, if I may.
Lay it on me.
I really want to talk about the practical stuff that happens here.
Sure.
There is so much I like looking at. I like that Ahsoka and Hera, the two with big tentacles, are practically done. Like, there's no dots on their face. Like, they go into a makeup chair for 3 hours a day, and they got completely done. So there's no soft blur lines of CGing this stuff on them. There's nothing fake happening. Like, they went into a chair and had all these prosthetics put on, and I think it looks so good. I'm really, really happy that these women got to just, like, be there and not be like, how does the green screen work and where do the dots go and is this going to look okay? They could just act.
Where are my, head tentacles, ovipositors, hair, whatever you want to call what that is? Like, where is it going to land and how is it going to play out? Like, you're in it, and it helps the actors because you feel in it.
Yeah, they can move properly. Like, they're not going to whip their head too fast. The CG would have looked weird if they got added in post.
And just like the artistry of the makeup and costume team who did it right and did a really good job. It's not only is it like it grounds the actors, it allows them to be in it, but it's extra artistry, and also the vibes are right. It just feels like the correct vibes for Star Wars.
Yeah, Star Wars has such a history of, like, I feel like we've lost the idea that it's like they're known for their practical effects as well. Because, like, also, like, so many of the droids are real. Like, C-3PO was really there. Anthony Daniels was on set.
Oh,
That's
was he?
crazy. I don't know if he was in it, but he was on set. He said that in his, like, thanks for welcoming me back to Star Wars. So I don't know if he was just there doing the lines off. But, like, C-3PO was, like, there as a robot. I'm pretty sure David Tennant's Yang was there most of the time. He felt very real. Mm-hmm. He was practically there. So, like, practical stuff is so important, but also just practically speaking, I wanted to talk about the costuming, which I think is phenomenal in this show. And whoever was in charge of the costume department put so much love and care into the details of these characters, not just like the Rebels characters of being like, let's capture what animated characters look like. Literally my favorite thing in this entire series was when we found Thrawn, and Thrawn's and his stormtroopers look like shit because they've been trapped on a planet for 8 years, and there's like fraying on their uniforms because they don't have extra uniforms, and they probably didn't bring a seamstress with them when they got trapped here, and all the stormtrooper outfits are dirty and have cracks in them, and they're really there, and I just loved that. I thought it was so good.
Thrawn's whole army looked impeccably cool. They looked
wrecked, and it made them so cool.
Yes.
They were the coolest stormtroopers I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I get why Thrawn's popular. They got me immediately. I'm like, I know why people love Thrawn. This is cool.
It looks, and even just having the like area aspects of Thrawn's Star Destroyer being like gold, the little lore implication that it's like they repaired with what was there, and I guess this planet probably had like of the metals that were available had abundant gold, which is something that we consider a more like aesthetic and visual metal,
or some other gold-like material.
A gold, but it had that shine. So like things being patched up with gold, but not in a way that's meant to be ostentatious, in a way that is meant to be this resilient. We've used what is at hand. Brilliant, and it looks really cool. And yeah, the red ties tying all of the stormtroopers patches up. I wasn't sure if it was meant to imply that like those areas that were tied are where they were injured and killed and that they're dead under there. I wasn't sure if that was meant to be.
They've already been resurrected?
Because some of them were already necromanced. Some of them were all like full-on skeletons. Remember, the two toughest ones that they were fighting were like necromance soldiers.
Oh, I thought those were robots.
No, that was a skull under there.
Oh, shit. Okay.
So I'm not sure how many of them were meant to be already brought back from the dead, and that was what the battle damage was implying. But either way, it's telling a story visually. It's just really fucking cool. Thrawn shit looks great. Also, I would say as a Star Wars fan, this is just my favorite era of Star Wars, where it's
Rebels
just like
look great.
The orange jumpsuits, the colors, everything about it. This is the sweet spot of Star Wars visuals for me in terms of color palette, ship design, how everything looks and feels. And then you add new hotness like Thrawn's army, stuff like Balin and Shin, like the Jedi mercenaries, seem like cool but functional, but Jedi inspired, but a hint of Sith without going full Sith. That costume design works.
Yeah.
Looks really good.
Really, really good. And I think what makes it so nice is because, like, this era, which is, like, just post-Empire, like, we've just defeated the Emperor and stuff, is when, you know, movie 6 is set in, like, the early 80s, when it's mostly practical. So, like, when you're like, this is the same time as Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the same time as Return of the Jedi, so it should look similar. It should have more practical effects. The costume should be almost exactly the same. So, like, that's kind of what you want. You want to feel that cohesion in the Star Wars universe, and it's really nice when you do. Like, sometimes there's so much CG and they try new stuff, and, like, they should. It's an evolving universe, but when you've set it in the same timeline as an earlier movie, it should also match up.
Yeah.
So them doing so much practical work and so much tiny details and costuming and, like, stuff in the set design. I really loved seeing just not a ton of CG for once.
Yeah, and then also there was just stuff like the second half of the season. Once Ahsoka has that cozy heavy knit Jedi
the poncho,
the
Jedi
cape,
poncho.
I was like, I want this outfit. I love what Ahsoka is wearing, and I want to go to a store and buy this. It looks cozy and delightful as hell.
It looked really great. Like a long line of like Jedi wearing ponchos. Like, you know, they love to do that. Normally it's for a reveal reason.
Yeah.
The poncho isn't usually the set piece. But with Ahsoka, she's like, no, the poncho is the set piece. You don't take it off for the reveal. It's a gorgeous, yeah. Because she has like two main costumes, but then when she gets pulled out of the water, she's like, I'm cold and I need a cozy poncho. I've been in the water.
Yeah,
and I get it.
Yep.
You need a hot chocolate and a poncho.
Totally get it.
But
totally get it.
It looks great.
It looks great.
Yeah.
It looks incredible.
But it also fits perfectly.
Yes. Let's keep the positive train rolling because, like, on top of, like, aesthetically, everything looks good. It's grounded. The costumes, the wardrobes, the practical makeup. There are some other really big positives here. David Tennant is a goddamn delight.
David Tennant, thank God you were here. When doing research for this episode, found out he got an Emmy for doing this voice on Rebels.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe it was Clone Wars. One of these.
Sure.
Whatever one he did this voice on. It was only 2 episodes. He was a guest star, and he got an Emmy for it. So, of course, they brought him back. And thank God. Oh, my God. The humor and emotion he brings as a droid. Dear God. You are so good, David Tennant. What a year you're having also.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my God.
A great year. And yeah, it grounds it is the emotional core of this series.
Absolutely is.
Like no one makes me feel as much and does as much in here, including the title character, as David Tennant does as the droid Huyang.
Yeah, I feel like there was like literally 2 things in this entire show that made me emotional. And it was when he was on the edge of the cliff holding the lightsaber and he's like, I told them to stay together and they never listen. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I feel way more from him being sad than them actually separating, Sabine and Ahsoka. So good. And then later he has a scene with Ezra where he tells Ezra about his master who's already passed away and like building a lightsaber with his master. And it was honestly like the most emotional part of the show for me. Ezra, a character I barely even know. Mm-hmm. And David Tennant is just going so hard on like building connections between characters and emotion and like fitting in backstory just through like his acting. God, he's so good.
So good. So good.
And also just funny,
one of the better written characters, and also just one of the few characters who, like, they're like, well, we've made this character, you know, the comedic relief, which often happens to the droid or droid-adjacent characters, where it's like, let's make this kind of like the breakup, the comedic relief. But it goes to show something that I've always been adamant of, which is that comedy can reveal character.
Oh, yes.
And because he is the comic relief, we get to find out kind of what his opinions are on things, when he's like, oh, he's a little snide when he thinks something is stupid. But now we know what he thinks is stupid and what he thinks is smart and how he likes to teach and what he thinks of this person. We've learned a lot about him. Whereas most of the other characters don't get to be funny or say anything clever and are just saying a series of events. I do think, like, on a tangential positive that I think will kind of veer into a negative here, I think Rosario Dawson is doing a fantastic job of Ahsoka. I think that she really does embody this character and does a really good job of it, and isn't given the dialogue to make it work. A lot of her dialogue is really just like, it's Yang like doing, David Tennant doing joke, and then her being like, up there are whales. They're whales that travel through force speed to other galaxies, and that's what it is that whales are. And then she just silently looks off, and I'm like, you gave her fucking nothing to work with dialogue-wise. You've given this phenomenal actor just nothing to work with.
Yeah, I will say this is one of my bigger negatives of the series, is that I would even say two phenomenal actresses are giving nothing to work with, because Mary Elizabeth Winstead is nothing in this show as well.
Also true.
So I think both of these actresses are phenomenal normally. Rosario Dawson, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, like, if you've seen Harley Quinn the movie where she plays Huntress, dear God, she's so good. Rosario Dawson in every other role. And I think they're both just kind of nothing here because all of their lines are nothing. Yeah, their characters are completely unexplored. I don't know what they fear. I don't know what they hope. I don't know how they grow as characters at any point in this show. You're right. Like Ahsoka mostly just like looks away and she's like, maybe I'll ask Sabine to fix the map. And that's the conversation. And like, I do love her embodiment of this character, though. This like really wise, like arm folding she constantly does. She's one of the only Jedi I've met who feels like she has true like zen with the Force and
she
peace.
Feels thoughtful.
She feels thoughtful, and she feels like she constantly can feel the Force and is one with it and is at peace with that. And I actually think that's really refreshing because I feel like most stories about Jedi are about like, oh God, I'm frantically working with the Force. And I hardly ever reach that moment of peace that feels like what Jedi should get to. Mm-hmm. And so she does feel like a master. And I think she feels strong and powerful. And her dialogue and her arc as a character just are not there.
No. It's a shame. It is a shame because she's better and she deserves better. And the fact that she sells thoughtfulness in between the not enough dialogue for her and then clunky expositional, not setting her up for a good performance dialogue. But in between that, she has made the acting choices to make this character thoughtful and powerful. And that shows the strength of her as an actor, to be like, they gave her very little. And in between that little, she has made decisions that add a lot of value to who this person is.
She has. And oh God, the writing is so frustrating because every now and then they just touch on something wildly interesting and never, ever explore it. I think to me, the biggest like misstep in this whole season was the kind of like Force flashbacks or whatever was happening with Anakin.
Yeah.
Which is a cool idea to get Anakin in there.
Absolutely.
Force ghosts are established.
It's fun to get Hayden Christensen back. It's
very happy for Hayden.
It's nice to see him like getting, like as we saw in like Obi-Wan, getting to come back and like getting this little this moment in the spotlight under better conditions and things that look better and are written a little bit better for him, and it's nice.
It's nice to see him celebrated as Anakin, whereas until
Yes.
I think Kenobi, everyone was like, man, that guy sucked, right? Like, it's nice to see everyone being kind to a guy who was a kid and seems wildly nice.
Yeah.
And is just a pretty good Anakin.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see him there, but just like, so nice to see Hayden Christensen and Anakin, but writing wise, this whole episode was like, the whole arc of the dream was like live or die, fight to survive. And I'm like, yeah, she does that. She's been fighting, she's been surviving, but briefly in that episode, she says like one line and she's like, if I'm everything you are, and then he switches to Darth Vader. And it's like her having to figure out like what parts of her are the bad parts of Anakin. But like it's completely unexplored, and it's so interesting the
Yeah.
idea that she has to deal with being the apprentice to the ultimate evil in the universe.
Yeah.
And having not known and wondering what parts of those are in her and like what he saw in her that might have like been bad, but like literally doesn't come up in any way. And I'm so interested in exploring that.
Yeah, and it seems like she's already at peace with it,
Yeah.
which is like, I want to see you not be. I want to see that exploration of like someone who taught me things which are what he taught me have academic value. He taught me how to use a lightsaber well, and I do use a lightsaber well. He taught me how to use the Force, and I do use the Force. He has taught me things that have academic and empirical value, and was a monster who slaughtered the children.
Slaughtered the children, blew up Alderaan. I feel
Yeah.
like we always kind of step back and don't. I know he didn't hit the button, but he definitely was like, "Let's do it." He wasn't against blowing up Alderaan.
Yeah, yeah.
Which also
I
had
think
many
Tarkin
children.
was the one who gave the order, but still, he's part of it.
He
he's
built
part
it.
of it. And I think that, there's a lot interesting that you could explore there, and it's just completely unexplored.
It's completely unexplored. They don't even find interesting parallels between like Ahsoka and Sabine about like why she's hesitant to take on an apprentice, which seems very obvious at surface level. It's because you were an apprentice to a monster.
Yes.
But it doesn't come up and they never discuss it, and not even in a dreamscape. It's just so many missed opportunities of actually exploring this character.
And what I find fascinating is that like they know how to write that, because like the main character of Ahsoka does not get this exploration, does not get this conflict, and doesn't get this. But the character of Baylan Skoll, played by Ray Stevenson, rest in peace, who I think does a phenomenal job of this character, is playing the thoughtful introspection of a ex-Jedi after a collapse of a hubristic empire. Of like when he has that moment of like talking to his apprentice Shin, and it's just like, do you miss the Jedi? And he's like I miss the idea of it, but I
love
don't
that
miss the
speech.
truth.
I
the
love
weakness.
that speech.
And I'm like, it is such a gray area speech of him being like, he's not the over the top vaudevillian villain of to be like, what I hate about the Jedi is they don't like killing the weak people. Ooh, I like to grab the weak ones and push them in the lava. Like, it's just someone who's just like, man, life in the galaxy is complicated. Love it. The writing has the ability to explore that, and they explore it with him, which is good. And Ray Stevenson does a phenomenal job, and these two characters are great. But why that is not paralleled and brought to the forefront with our main characters, the heroes, I don't understand.
Yeah, Ray Stevenson's character is wildly interesting, of this man who's like looking for more meaning in the universe. And like him and Shin are given red lightsabers, but he's a former Jedi who's not a Sith, though. There is this weird middle ground that they've created for them that is wildly interesting, of kind of just like wild Jedi, because now there is no Jedi Order. So who's to say who's a Jedi and who's a Sith? You're just kind of out there using the Force. You're just people now.
I think they refer to them as mercenaries at one point.
Yeah, I think they are considered mercenaries. But yeah, he's wildly interesting. His relationship with Shin, his apprentice, is like very interesting, where he kind of acknowledges that she just wants power and kind of lets her go. And like they both respect that.
Yeah.
Like this is such a more interesting master-apprentice relationship that's happening here. And also, who plays Shin? Ivana Sakno. Oh my God, you were great.
Owns the shit out of this character.
She felt
Damn.
so cool, so badass. Like, oh my God, I loved her. Every time she was on screen, I'm like, don't let this girl die. I love her. I think she's so cool.
Yeah, these two are really big highlights of the show. Really cool, fresh characters, interesting perspective. One of the most interesting master and apprentice things that they could have done. So I'm having a great time with those two.
I'm also having a great time. I would say another missed opportunity, though, is like it's weird when Ahsoka does, like, she only meets Shin kind of really once at the very end, once Ray Stevenson has already kind of let her loose. And I just really thought they were going to have like a bonding, like join our side moment of like, I also had an master who didn't quite vibe with me.
Right.
And I was raised a little bit wrong. But that was just a small thing I wanted, because I didn't want Shin to leave, because I thought she was great.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And then if we're Going through the cat. Oh, no, lay it on me.
Well, just because we're on Anakin briefly.
Okay.
Just because we're on Anakin, and while we were discussing Anakin and Ahsoka, I also do think it's weird that the show never once touches upon the monster Anakin became. Like, when you're in a Force stream and you're like, you're fine, do that stuff. But Ahsoka, like, watching old footage of him and being like, yeah, he was really good at forms. I'm like, if Andrew killed a single person, I'm never watching a video of you fondly again.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Being like, yeah, he made mistakes, but I think he was a good master. I'm like, he blew up a planet and killed so many children.
It is really
No
like...
one looks fondly on this man.
It makes Ahsoka look kind of like a privileged idiot because it's very much like, this man was canceled, and Ahsoka's the person who's like, he was always good to me, though.
She sent out bad tweets. That was
Yeah.
I don't think he did. I think it's okay that he did it.
Yeah.
He was always nice to me. Yeah, it's very film.
It's very a celebrity gets canceled, and someone's like, but they were nice to me, though. It's like, that's not how this works.
Not how this works.
You can explore how difficult that is for you to deal with, to be like, it's messed up that I have a lot of good memories of this dude. That's a weird thing.
Yeah, you can deal with that, but you can't watch footage of him and be like, oh, so glad he left me 20 videos of him. I'm like, I wouldn't be.
Uyang was in charge of the younglings. She's watching a hologram of the person who murdered this, like all of the people that, like, this robot was the caretaker of.
I mean, she definitely knew the younglings. She's only like 18 when Anakin turns. Like, so she knew all the kids at the Jedi Temple still.
Yeah.
She was friends with them. So he killed people she knew, to the point where, like, this is how you know you're on the wrong side of a person's memory. When Thrawn, the ultimate evil, is like, ooh, Anakin's apprentice, that sounds good. I loved Anakin.
Yeah.
I think Anakin was great.
Yeah. If I can get her to do the same things, that's pretty dope.
Like, Thrawn, I will say at this point, doesn't know that Anakin threw the Emperor into a pit. But still,
Yeah.
if he is like, oh, I want Anakin's apprentice, that sounds good.
Even throwing the Emperor into the pit, I would say that, like, even if Thrawn knew that, Thrawn would still be like, that dude got us pretty far. If Thrawn could time travel and he would be like, a world without Anakin, or a world with Anakin who does all of these things and then eventually throws the Emperor into the pit, Thrawn's probably like, we get farther faster with this man living his life and ultimately killing the Emperor than we would without him.
Yeah. Thrawn is more interested in the Empire than the Emperor.
Yeah.
So I think he's still cool with it.
Yeah. So
I just needed to throw that out there as something that was wildly annoying to me.
Yeah, I fully get that. A lot of complicated feelings that aren't explored. Another thing that isn't explored with the whole Ahsoka Force Vision background thing is she's talking to Anakin, and Anakin's like, I wasn't here at this battle. And it's her, like, at the wipeout of Mandalore and, like, killing Mandalorians and wiping out Mandalore. And it's like, oh, is that going to be, like, a point of tension now between her and Sabine? And it's not. That's not a problem for those two. And I'm like, why did it come up? This feels like a really great... There's no conflict.
No, there's no conflict. Now, Ahsoka was on Rebels, so maybe they both already know this about Ahsoka.
And it's already been explored or whatever.
But like, if you're I'm here for this.
Yes.
For any conflict. Pick one.
Yeah. And I think that is where... That is one of the ways that this show ultimately fails, is trying to be too many things to too many people. And I know we have one other character thing that I want to get to, but while we're on this subject of kind of like missed opportunities and like, why is there no conflict there and they do this, is that this show, I think, is trying to be everything. And I think that one of the beautiful things about Star Wars is that you can have different types of adventures in the universe. You know, Rebels is an animated show, and being animated isn't what make it a kid's show. It skews towards a younger audience. It's a little bit more innocent. It's a little bit more like the idea of being rebellious is more of a child's idea of being rebellious.
Yeah, and
it's very different than the Andor idea of being rebellious, where the Andor idea of being rebellious is burn the whole system down, and whoever goes down with it needs to sometimes to hit the reset switch. Like, it's a very adult, visceral idea of like, we are prisoners of capitalism is one of the
the workers have to take the power back and escape the prison.
Yes.
Is Andor, and Rebels is like, we have a funny little droid who hacks things, and we're technically rebelling, and we win battles by having whales teleport the bad guys away. It's more innocent.
Exactly. It's like, we don't like that the Empire showed up and took all of the fresh fruit from the fresh fruit stand, so we're gonna fight back, and then this local vendor will be a champion in there. It's very different, but this is Ahsoka is trying to be everything. There are moments where they're like, look at us, we're Andor, we're going to the capital. Look at the fear caused by the creeping rise of authoritarianism. Isn't the creeping and bureaucratic nightmare of authoritarianism something that we're all afraid of? Anyway, this kid has purple hair and feels the Force. Ooh, sassy robot. And it's like, you can't have both. You need to decide what the goddamn tone of this show is. Mm-hmm. And there are times where they're trying to be original Star Wars. There are times where they're trying to be the sincere political drama that points a mirror up to society that Andor is. And there are times where they're trying to be a fun, harmless adventure that exists in a cartoon reality. And you can't... All of them work, but not in conjunction with one another. It's a show equivalent of like a thing that I don't like when like flavors are combined in food in a weird way, where it's like, check out this wasabi flavored ice cream. And it's like, no, I don't want spicy ice cream. And it's just like, and not to yuck anyone's young if that's what you're into, but that's just the metaphor I'm using here.
It's two things you really like that don't go together.
Flavors that don't work. And that's what this show feels like to me.
I can get behind that. And it's a weird instance where a shared universe kind of almost doesn't work, because like some things that make it feel weird is, you're right, there is like the creeping political stuff, but it's not done particularly well because like that's not what this show is. So it feels almost jarring to see Mon Mothma, who we just watched in Andor give incredibly intense, dramatic performances about like espionage and hiding your true intentions and like really fighting evil from the background in this really cool performance. And then here it's like, well, I just can't control this one senator who's a dick. And I'm like, Mon Mothma, you could.
Yes.
You are such a powerful woman. And it's not matching the tones of where I just saw this actress as this character do a much more interesting performance with like way deeper material. So it's a weird thing where this universe doesn't mesh in that way, because you're taking characters from the deep political live action and putting it into what was a cartoon. Mm-hmm. And they're just not matching. No,
it just doesn't mesh. And I think one of the great examples of this, and then I think this will kind of bridge into the character beat that we want to talk about, is when we are introduced to Sabine, the character of Sabine, who's from Rebels. Ahsoka goes to Sabine and is like, I have this map that might lead to where Thrawn is. Help me unlock this map. It is a big concern. And Ahsoka's like, I'm very worried about the reemergence of Nazism in the world that we've created. I'm actually very concerned that people are out to kill us, and authoritarianism is going to come back. And Sabine's reaction is, yeah, but I want to do it in my room. And takes it and goes and does it in her room and is attacked, as opposed to being like, okay, one of you was reacting in a way of a cartoon and one of you was existing in Andor, and they don't belong in the same scene, and these tones don't match, of Sabine being like, I know I was told not to leave with the thing that could cause the fall of our new republic, but I'm going to, because I want to do it alone.
I want to do it on my computer in my room. And it's very detrimental that these styles don't match, because on a Rebel show, like, the young characters are supposed to rebel, and they always end up being right in the end or learning a valuable lesson in the end. But on this show, because it's live action and most of the characters are adults now, you're like, oh, I just don't like Sabine. Yeah. At least that's my personal reaction of like, I was like, oh, okay, this character just fucks up. Oh, for no particular reason. Just is kind of a dick.
Yeah, it's just kind of dumb.
An idiot?
Yeah, just an idiot.
Yeah. I will say I have never met a more unlikable main character in Star Wars than this version of Sabine. She did not feel so similar to the animated version, different actress. But this version of this character was almost intolerable to me.
A joy suck, and it wasn't meant to be. Like, it's not like, oh, this is one that's meant to be grating and meant for you to dislike. It was just like every moment this character was on screen, I was like, I hate this show. I actually hate this show.
Yeah, like bringing down great actors, because this is a weird combination of a mostly poorly written character and also, I'm very sorry, this woman cannot act.
It's rough.
It's
rough.
Like, and like some of her lines are actually fun on paper. Like she's got like some quirky, fun lines that she cannot deliver.
No.
So like
she's pretty good with fight choreo. I will say that she's done a good job with the stunts.
The job, maybe.
She's doing a really good job in the action scenes. So credit there. But yes, like line reads and deliveries are really rough.
Yeah, and like so it's like her and Rosario Dawson, and Rosario Dawson's already not being given great lines. Mm-hmm. So now it's like Rosario Dawson's getting brought down by being like with an actress who also isn't talented. So they can't have just like. Because at least in scenes where Rosario Dawson doesn't have great lines and she's with David Tennant, there's this energy and this back and forth. And you're like, this scene still lives.
Yeah.
But scenes with Sabine are just like...
They die on the page. They die on the page.
You just want to take your phone out and like it's easier to not watch it.
Yes.
It's just you want to look away. They're train wreck scenes.
I think the simplest epitome of the problem with the performance for Sabine that I am going to say is there is one moment. It's a single word, and I feel like this kind of epitomizes what is going wrong here. There is a moment where they're getting a holographic communication from Syndulla, from Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead's character is like, I talked to the Republic, and they're not going to send anyone to help you because they're not worried about the rise of Thune. And it cuts to Sabine, who's like in the cockpit of the ship, seeing this hologram, hearing this news, and she just goes, "What?" And it's just a flat. She just says the word "what" with no acting choice attached to it, and And in this moment, I see this, and I'm seeing her just say the word "what," and I'm getting so frustrated because in my head I'm like, what is the choice behind you saying "what"? Mm-hmm. Like when you see that in the script, and it says the word "what," is your character incredulous? Are you like, what? Like you cannot believe the ineptitude of this Republic that they've heard all of these facts and are still not helping? Is what? Is it you? Are you sincerely like you don't understand what you're hearing right now? Like, what? Like you can't comprehend it. Is it incomprehensible? Is it incredulity? Is it nothing but pure anger and rage? And none of those choices were made. And it's just the word, what? And there's no emotion or intention behind it. And I know that it seems like a silly thing to pin in on because it's one word. But it's the quickest and easiest thing to explain what the problem with the performance is, because that's true of sentences, of paragraphs, of full dialogue, of back and forth. There's just no choice happening behind any of the dialogue that she's delivering.
Absolutely, that is what's going on. Andrew just did 3 great what takes that were all wildly more interesting than Sabine's what. Like, and that's off the cuff. Andrew hasn't been studying the script.
That's me just improvising. That's a cold read.
He hasn't been beaten out. Yeah, like her what and every other line sounds like the table read of her lines. Like they got changed that day and she hasn't explored them. She hasn't figured out. Because I will say, as much as we're complaining that like Ahsoka and even I think Hera don't get any exploration, Sabine gets so much to do in this show.
Yes, it's the Sabine show, frankly.
It's the Sabine show. She has to figure out whether she wants to be Ahsoka's apprentice or a Jedi or a Mandalorian. She has to figure out if she is willing to destroy this map or risk the universe to save her friend Ezra. She has to make wildly interesting choices. And she makes the wrong choice every single time in a non-endearing way. But like, yeah, she gets so much to do, and she's not written to be an enjoyable character, and also she's poorly acted. It is a trifecta of terribleness just happening around this one character.
It really drags the show into the dirt.
Yeah, like so she like loses the map. I was relieved she got stabbed. I hated that she came back absolutely fine. And then she chooses to like risk the entire universe to try to find Ezra. And wow, what a failure. Can we talk about the fact that Thrawn gets away and they're stranded at the end?
It's a complete failure.
Ezra got released, and that's the only highlight. And I don't feel like I've ever heard that Ezra is like the next Luke, like he's that important to get out here, because I'm going to tell you within 5 minutes, Thrawn's killing more people than you've just saved.
Yes. Yeah.
Thrawn's going to go on a killing spree in moments. He's got 3 witches now.
Yes.
You've released a more powerful Thrawn.
Thrawn, 3 witches, a necromancy army, a Star Destroyer, and you've gained 1 Jedi. You've lost another and yourself.
Yeah, you're at net 0 Jedi.
Yes.
And more Thrawn.
Yes.
So and at the end, Ahsoka's like, it's absolutely fine. It's not.
It's not.
You've forgiven Sabine and Anakin for terrible choices that they've made.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just not a good enough person. I just think you destroy the map.
And I'm even okay with like there's ways to execute this ideal in a more appropriate manner. There are ways to do that. Captain America, we don't trade lives.
Yes.
Like that, like we're probably gonna lose this fight and it might fuck up and it might make things worse. But we don't make compromises for the greater good. We do good all of the time. That is what we do. We are Jedi. We try to have the best possible outcome. There's ways to accomplish that. And it's nothing. It's not done here. It's not done here. And it makes me dislike Sabine even in moments where she finds Ezra. And Ezra's like, so what's going on and when are we going home? And Sabine's like, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, this man
What?
has been trapped for 8 years alone with some really cool turtles and just wants to know if he's going home. And also, he needs to know Thrawn is trailing you.
He needs to know that, and also that you've brought 2 pseudo Sith to this planet that are now coming here. Like, Sabine actively puts this entire community of kind snail turtle people at risk. Like, she is just like, I don't care if this whole village gets blown to smithereens. I'm just not in the mood.
I want a nice day with Ezra.
Yeah, you are leading Ezra on. You are getting his hopes up and leading him on to a rescue that is not planned out, and you don't have a ship and you don't have any way to do this. You are putting an entire community at risk. You are actually just kind of cold and heartless in a way that wasn't written to be that. You just kind of suck, and none of your decisions are trackable or make any sense.
Yeah, a lot of her decisions are just selfish. She misses, she doesn't feel like she wants to save Ezra for Ezra. She wants to save Ezra because she misses Ezra.
Yeah.
She wants to, not tell him what's going on because she wants to enjoy this moment. Like, they are wildly selfish choices.
Yeah.
And she doesn't feel like she learns a lesson at the end. And maybe she will now that she's been stranded on a planet.
Yeah, she does not respect the agency or free will of any other person. Yeah. Or
So
of the galaxy.
Wildly unenjoyable. Yeah, definitely, I think Sabine written differently and recast, I might, this show would be maybe a like for me even.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It really drags it all down. I think one mixed bag, positive, negative that I will say is one problem with this show trying to be everything Star Wars has ever had to offer in any capacity. One benefit of that is they really got to go buck wild with every musical cue that Star Wars has ever used in any context. Like when Anakin is fighting in the Force stream, they're like, let's get the score from episode 3 in here. Let's do that. Let's get the Empire March music from the original series because he's a little bit Darth Vader in this moment. Let's get music from Rebels. Let's get every
Mandalorian because Ahsoka was in that.
Like the composer for this show must have been like, okay, I'm gonna open the file folder that says Star Wars. What cues should I use? And the director just said yes. They used every piece of music from every era with every cue. They go bananas. It is no restraint, no real decisions, and I'm kind of enjoying it. I'm just like, yeah, hit me with every piece of hot hot score and composition you have ever worked out for this entire series.
Andrew is so jazzed, but was there jizz music?
Not enough.
If
There's
there was,
never enough
not
jizz
enough.
music.
I don't think they went to a bar at any point, so I don't think we jizzed.
Yeah. I don't think we jizzed.
Damn.
I don't think we jizzed.
How dare they?
For those of you who don't know,
Don't explain it.
you know what? We didn't jizz. I won't explain it.
They didn't jizz.
They didn't
we
jizz.
didn't jizz.
We didn't jizz. Jizz. So they went pretty wet and wild with all of the musical cues in this one.
They went wet and wild. What I thought you were going to talk about just now, about a thing that you like that they've been going wet and wild about. I do like that Paul Sun-Hyung Lee is kind of the Coulson of Star Wars now.
Yes.
This is really fun. I know we're talking about it's like a shared universe, so like everyone pops up in everything in a weird way, but he really feels like the guy that is now holding like the Disney Plus universe together.
You love to see it for Paul.
He's such a nice guy. He's so excited. He deserves it. He's such a fun actor.
A fun actor, a Star Wars fan, just a genuine and kind person, just someone you want all the success for. And I goddamn love seeing him in every one of these. And the Star Wars Agent Coulson is a great way to describe him now. He is just everywhere.
Yeah, he's Captain Teva, if you don't know the TIE Wing fighter.
Carson.
TIE Wing? X-Wing?
He's like an X-Wing fighter.
What are the
an
wings?
X-Wing. I think he's in an X-Wing. Yeah.
All right. You know the wings better than me.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
But just the New
I
Republic.
mean, there's X, Y, A. There's a bunch of different wings, but I think we see him pretty consistently in an X-Wing.
Yeah, he's the New Republic pilot who's just kind of showing up in every single show now, and is just like, I'm cool and everyone likes me, and I'm like, I love that for you. I absolutely love seeing you. You fit every universe.
Yeah.
You fit every universe, sir.
Yeah, he does. He does. Paul Sun-Hyung Lee fits every universe, every world. I love it. I love seeing him here. A wonderful canon.
Wonderful. Well, speaking of wonderful canons, actually one of my last points is, I know we already talked about the actors in this, but wow, Lars Mikkelsen is Thrawn. I get why this is the only voice actor you brought into the live action. I mean, I think some of the other voice actors could have come too. It seems like a lot of them fit. But in this case, I'm like, holy crap, this guy rules. I finally understand why Thrawn's a big deal.
Yeah.
Because, like, I've seen him on the cover of books, and I knew he was in Rebels. That blue face is pretty, like, noticeable. But I never understood what the big deal was. But I'm like, this guy rules. This performance is really cool. I like that he's strategic and, like, isn't just, like, we are so powerful we never have to worry about consequences. I actually think it's more dangerous that he's like, no, I've calculated the risks.
Yeah. And be like, we lost this, but that's fine because I calculated what acceptable losses were and I'd never invested more than I'm willing to lose.
Yeah, and we're still going to be able to take off before Ahsoka ever reaches us. And he's right, and he wins.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit, yeah, this guy's dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. Just a brilliant strategist and someone who scares the shit out of me. Is really scary.
Yeah, I couldn't believe he didn't have any powers. He's just a guy who's like, is charming the right word? Just
yeah, it's
powerful without having superpowers.
Yeah, just a leader. Just a leader. And like a true believer in the Empire in a way that is really fucking scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, just an absolute true believer. Like someone who like would never do any of the things that the Sith have done because like truly and scarily believes in a cause. Like it's just like, no, we're not sacrificing any of our things. There's never going to be like a Palpatine false flag and mission. It's just going to be like, no, we're doing the thing. And it's very intimidating, very powerful, pretty cool.
Pretty cool.
I think the last quick thing that I want to touch on is just kind of like a general Star Wars thing that I feel like Star Wars, it's one of the few things that I'm like, you've never figured out how to use this properly. And it's the witches. It's come up in like some extended universe stuff. It comes up now, which I guess is like non-canon now, but I think it comes up in the in the recent video games, which I think are canon.
I thought the Night Sister was one of the bad guys in your game.
Yeah, who like turns into a good guy. It's a whole thing, but like it's come up a few different times across Star Wars canon, and I just feel like they never really know what the vibe is or why they're there or what they're doing. Where it's just like, ooh, it's the Night Sisters. It's like, okay, cool. It's like they kind of knew Jedi. They know like about them, and they're like magic, and they've got a temple. so keep that in mind. And I'm like, okay, but what is their goal? And it's like, sometimes it's Shakespearean type prophecies. And they'll tell you to be like, I see you on a throne, but they didn't tell you that you're dead on that throne. Wink. And it's like, okay, and do they
little scamps the three
do they
sisters
like
are.
that or not like that? And the answer is maybe. They're just kind of a nothing float around type of a thing. They're just general visionaries and shit disturbers with no real kind of motive or agency.
Yeah, they're neat, but I think they kind of work. From the little I've seen of them, I think they kind of work honestly the best here. Just being like, we like Thrawn and we want whatever Thrawn wants, because that at least is kind of like we know what Thrawn wants.
Okay. Yeah.
But it also is like, well, like I think my problem with them isn't so much goals, although like you have to have goals. So that's how you know how to use a character and what makes them interesting. I feel like it's because they are kind of just general magic. They just get to do whatever they want. Whereas Jedi powers have such clear limitations. Where like you can move stuff around. Sometimes you can send mental messages, not even all the time.
Yeah.
It's mostly moving stuff around.
Yeah.
But the witches get to be like, we have magic and it's not the Force. And we can just do whatever we want. We can find Ahsoka in a debris field in space and point to it on a computer with magic.
With magic.
With magic. And also we can necromance the dead with magic.
Yeah.
And we can send messages to Morgan across the galaxy with magic.
With magic.
But I'm like, you have to have a limitation.
Yeah.
And like clear cut, like what does the magic do? Or else it's just going to be annoying every time we fight you. Of like, oh, here's a magic sword that does other stuff. And
the magic things can do what the plot needs it to do.
Yeah,
but
it's too plot
doesn't
convenient.
But doesn't do that regularly enough to get in the way of the plot as well. So it's not like they're not full-time message senders. They're not full-time we find you, and they're not full-time we resurrect the dead. But if plot needs us to, that's what we'll do. But we're not really used for that. Sometimes we're just sitting. And it's like, okay, but why are you just sitting sometimes? Why are you not always resurrecting the armies?
Yeah,
why are you
you
not
guys-
always finding where the rebel hideout is? Why are you not always doing that?
And why would you need Thrawn? Because you seem wildly more powerful than him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So they don't have goals and they don't have limitations, but they also have goals and limitations, but we don't get to know what they are. So yeah, they are a very wishy-washy villain.
Yeah.
They're cool enough, like as like a little side bit. They're cool, but they're not a good main villain.
Yeah, and I feel like that's not just a Ahsoka show thing. That's a like when I've read them in books, when I see them in the video game, I'm like, you're all just kind of around sometimes, maybe with maybe goals. No one knows what to do with you.
And I like the idea, though. I love the idea that there's magic that isn't the Force. Like, I think that's actually really cool and interesting. And I like the idea of the witches a lot. But yeah, I've never seen them used in a way that I was like, oh yeah, the witches are here. Fuck yeah, witches!
Yo, look out, it's witches!
I want to be excited for things.
Yeah.
That's my goal. So please make things that excite me, which is why my very final point is, man, do I love these turtles in their little suits.
They're adorable.
Wow.
Adorable.
This is the point where I'm like, you should have made a live action Rebels, because this is the best part of the show. You got a big dog, you got turtle people, and the turtle people don't die, but you guys are idiots, nearly get them killed a bunch of times. But they've got like good defense and they're smart, even though they're just little turtle people. And they got cute little outfits. I love them so much.
Star Wars back on their bullshit with perfectly adorable creature design.
You will never see a toy for this for 3 years.
Yeah.
They won't have planned for the turtle people to pop off like this. But I thought they were so cute. And they're my final big love was, I'm like, I adore these turtle people. I get why Ezra was like, we can just stay.
I call them. I've been very much in my head that they're snail people. You've really locked into turtle, and maybe they're turtle adjacent, but I think more of like a hermit crab type of a thing.
You know what? I think the fact that they're upright makes me think Ninja Turtle, because there's not already an upright snail.
They're very Ninja Turtle adjacent.
But you're
for
right
sure,
that they
for
have
sure.
more snail, like their eyes are more snail-like and their shells are more snail-like.
But you know what? Whatever.
Whatever.
Get a toy of it.
Also, they're not any particular Earth animal because they're a space animal.
Space people.
They're snurtles.
Yeah.
Snail turtles.
Ooh, fun.
Actually, Snurtle? Not bad.
Snurtle. It's a little close
comedy.
to Squirtle, but it's Snurtle. I like it. Well, let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change. So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Before we do ask the final question, we will remind you, our wonderful listeners, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might be getting your podcasts, because by doing that, you help us move up the charts and find new listeners, and it's a free way to support the podcast.
And it helps us so much move up the charts. It helps in our hearts. We feel nice when we read it, and people see new reviews and they're like, "Oh, the show is current. It's happening. It's going on right now. People are liking it right at this moment.
Love it.
Right at this moment, and we want them to
Hip
know
and
that."
happening.
And it helps us so much if you could leave a 5-star review.
Absolutely. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service where you can subscribe at whatever level is in your budget, and you'll get cool exclusive bonuses for doing so. Even if you only have $1, for $1, you can get our webcomic Text from Superheroes early, so you can get early access to our webcomic for $1. For $3, you can get early and ad-free access to this podcast. So you'll get this podcast earlier and without ads, which is a sweet deal. And then at the $10 level, you can also get an exclusive episode of this podcast every single month, and you get immediate access to the back catalog, so you get a bunch of extra episodes of the podcast at the $10 level.
The $10 level is also very sweet because, yeah, the extra episodes are things we've never covered on the regular podcast, and you get a full ad-free episode. And there's so many of them.
There's so many of them. Later this month, we'll be releasing an exclusive episode, which will be one of the spooky ones.
It'll be a spooky one.
It'll be Jason X, I think, is the idea.
We tentatively decided on Jason X.
On Jason X. So
we wanted to go to space.
Well, let's go. We want to be spooky but silly. Silly, spooks, scares, space. So Jason X will be our October Patreon exclusive. That'll be up soon on the Patreon page. So become a member now. Head on over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That is patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, let's go into the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
So my changes we've kind of basically already touched on. My biggest one is recast Sabine. I'm so sorry. I mean, the writing also needs help, but I think a good actress could still make Sabine likable. Like there is like a peppiness here, kind of an endurance here, a willing to not be stopped that can be likable with the right actress. So recast Sabine. And mostly I just want the show to actually be about Ahsoka. Rosario Dawson's so good. She deserves to actually get stuff to do in her own show. I want an exploration about like how she feels about being Anakin's apprentice, how that makes her feel about being a master now, why she won't connect with Sabine, why she keeps pushing her away. I think she deserves an actual arc and something to do, and I think she should be able to stop some of Sabine's bad choices as well. That would be nice. So yeah, I really want the Ahsoka show to be about Ahsoka. And those are my biggest changes. I don't really I think the plot of this is actually kind of interesting. Like it's kind of cool that Thrawn gets out. It's weird to have a failure as your first season because it's very Empire Strikes Back. Like the second one should be the failure and then you could come back in the third. It's weird to have a season 1 failure instead of like a season 2 failure. Doesn't set you off on a very nice path, but it's an interesting end. So I don't really even think I need to change that. But yeah, it's boringly paced, and I need more from the great Rosario Dawson in this. So those are my big changes. Andrew, what would you change?
I love your changes, and I am on a very similar vein. But rather than recast Sabine, my big change for this is that, and I'm sorry, fans of the animated series, none of the characters from Star Wars Rebels are here.
Wait, that's most of the show.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, like, I know Ahsoka was on some episodes. Huyang was on some episodes. But Sabine and Ezra and Syndulla gone. Because if you're going to have a live-action Star Wars Rebels, make a Rebel show. Just make that show. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying never make that show. It doesn't work. I'm saying make that show as its show with the cast of that show doing what that show was. This show, I think, like, all of the cast of Rebels is gone. It is about Ahsoka and Huyang going on an adventure, and then it is the two mercenaries. It is Balin and Shin, and they are kind of meant to parallel, but in reverse, kind of what Ahsoka is dealing with in her head with Anakin as a master. To be like, Ahsoka is a Jedi who's not quite a Jedi. She's kind of more comparable, like, to Baylan. And Shin is more of a traditional, like, Sith. So it's that idea of, like, Shin was looking for power. So the apprentice of the mercenaries is looking for power. And Ahsoka's master was someone who was looking for power. And she kind of relates to Baylan. And Baylan is someone who's just like, they had flaws, but I haven't gone full evil. Do you realize that there's this complicated middle ground? Why are you still trying to live in the past? So I feel like that needs to be the villainous temptation that Ahsoka is dealing with. To be like, not, are you going to become Darth Vader also? I think it should be a like, no, why don't you come hang out with me? I'm Baylan. I'm trying to just kind of find the answers to the mysteries of the universe because I'm doing some weird, mysterious shit because I think life is really complicated and I'm also a war veteran who's seen too much. And I feel like you were a child soldier who probably is dealing with a lot of PTSD from that. And we just kind of want answers to why the universe is the way it is. That's the heart of the show. That creates a lot of like internal and external conflict for Ahsoka. And we could keep Thrawn. I know that is like a big Rebels villain, but it's always been like a big extended universe novels villain as well. It'd be like, we're worried about the return of Thrawn, and maybe that's the only real like big Rebels thing here.
I can absolutely get behind this because I think Ray Stevenson and his apprentice Shin are like the most interesting part of this.
They're the show.
They're the show, yeah. So connect them with what Ahsoka's doing more clearly. Yeah, we don't need any of the Rebel characters. They all, like, despite their big role they play, do just feel like they're here to be like, whoa, look, it's the Rebels characters.
They're just around.
Yeah, they're just around. Yeah, that would be a phenomenal show. That would be very interesting. Yeah, Ahsoka having to just kind of find her place in a world that still doesn't have the Jedi back to figure out what she really wants.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, and to be like, she's not hanging out with Luke, restarting the Jedi Order.
No, she bailed on that guy.
Yeah, so like she is finding her own way in the universe. So I think that's what this show is about. So that's my big change. Get rid of the Rebel characters, and this show is about Ahsoka and Baylan Skoll.
I love that, and a genuinely rest in peace to Ray Stevenson. He was phenomenal in this.
Did a phenomenal job. Yeah, yeah. So that's Ahsoka.
That's Ahsoka.
Love it.
I think we did it.
I think I agree that we very much did it. That is going to do it for us this week. Next week on the podcast, we are getting into a Halloween-y movie. We're going to spend the rest of the month talking about spooks and scares and thrills. Next week, we're going to be talking about The Thing.
The Thing.
The original John Carpenter's The Thing.
It is a little scary.
So it'll be a fun ride. I consider it more of like a thriller. Than like a traditional, not like a jump scare spook, but like a thrilling scare.
Is it weird that I'm also like, there's also a dog?
Yeah, there is. There is.
Love a movie with a dog.
So we'll be back talking about that next week.
I'll be talking about a dog.
Diana will be talking about the dog. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Ivimey, IVIMEY.
You can find me on Tumblr at Words of Diana.
And you can find all of our stuff at FromSuperheroes.com. Visit FromSuperheroes.com to see all of our other podcasts and content that we create. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.